Welcome to the latest episode for Break&Dish. I am your host, Chris.
I'm your lovely co-host, Nikima, and we are here to welcome you back for another great episode. While you may not always know what our content is going to be, one thing you can be certain of is that it's always going to be relevant, relatable, and real.
Real. Indeed. We have another interesting topic tonight that we want to introduce to everyone, and it's by way of a question. And the question resulted from a few different things that we saw, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But just wanted to pose a question tonight. Am I ready to die? Am I ready to die? And I know it sounds like a morbid question, especially considering everything that's going on. And before we even get into any dialogue tonight, want to send our sincerest condolences to those families that have been affected by the recent tragedies, unfortunately, as they continue. Yes. But it certainly continues to highlight the fact that none of us know. We don't have a clue of when that hour might come. Right. And as sad and as unfortunate and as painful as those moments are for us, in whatever way that we transition, or our family members may transition, it still leaves us with what types of preparations have been made. Now, neither of us are funeral directors or in the funeral profession, but nonetheless, it is something that affects us all.
Absolutely, and as you were saying, condolences to the many families who's lost loved ones over the last several weeks and months. But even more than our prayers and condolences, I just want to encourage you all that it's voting time. And it's also time to hold some people accountable and make the changes that we can. And we need to move beyond just saying prayers of condolences and actually put some action behind that. But moving into our topic and talking about death, he doesn't do funeral home work, neither do I. However, for the last 10 years, I have worked in hospice and palliative care, so I've had a great deal of encounters with death, expected and unexpected, with families. And I think that it brings us to this great topic of, are you really ready to die? Like, we tend to think we're immortal, like we're not going to leave here. But the true reality of that is, from the moment we took our first breath in this world, we were headed towards that finish line.
Indeed.
And I think it's so important that people get ready and that they are prepared. And that preparation is such a gift to the family members that are left behind.
Yeah. I saw a video, speaking of family, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I saw speaking of voting and the importance of voting, we realized, this, everything may not necessarily boil down to politics. However, we do know that legislation and other things do affect, certain parts, of our society. And I just saw a clip of a senator, and I may attach it to this so you all see it. But there's a senator that's literally making a plea, like, what are we here for? What are you here for? And especially in times like this.
What are we doing? Why do you spend all this time running for the United States Senate? Why do you go through all the hassle of getting this job, of putting yourself in a position of authority, if your answer is that as this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing? What are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this.
And not to, go down too much of a rabbit hole there, but just realizing that some things in our society that we continue to face simply because we're refusing to do something about. Right. And even as that relates to, dealing with death, how long are we going to continue to not be prepared for something that we should be preparing
Absolutely, absolutely. And even beyond a burial insurance policy and life insurance policy, I think it's so important that we take care of all the loose ends, because death can bring out some ugliness in people. And if you're not clear in what that looks like, and especially in the age of blended families and people get remarried and maybe they're widowed, adult children, or people who've been married for 60 or 70 years that just don't have the strength to make the decision because they don't want to make the wrong decision. And I've seen that several times in my line of work, where they just do nothing because they don't want to make the wrong decision, almost paralyzed by fear and trying to decide for the loved one. So I'm a big advocate of advance directives. Get your stuff written on paper. Like, it doesn't go into effect until you're no longer able to make those decisions. That paper can speak for you. Now, you have to appoint somebody that you can trust, because please know that just because you've put it on paper, they can't override that. Right. So you have to make sure that you've spoken and made your wishes clear. But whether it's healthcare power of attorney, mental health power of attorney, there are those who have struggles with mental health. And it doesn't always incapacitate them, but it may at times put them in a position where they can't make the best decisions for themselves. And we've seen some mental health crises end in death.
Indeed.
So just several different ways to get your affairs in order so that your kids ain't out there fighting at the funeral.
Listen, my God. So before we go down there, a couple things that you mentioned. So you talked about what it means to, or the fact that we have to, as you put it on paper. Mm-hmm. What does put it on paper actually mean? So, I mean, do I get out a notebook pad and start writing some stuff down?
Actually, if you have a signature, some places, some states may uphold that, but I would encourage you to do some sort of estate planning if you're able to. If you don't have the money to do estate planning, you can do downloadable forms online. If you don't have computers, you can go to your local public library, get those forms for your state and get them done. Because I can tell you all day, this is what I do or don't want done. But at the end of the day, I have adult children. I have parents that are still living there. Everybody will have input. But I also believe that I have a family that respects my wishes, and them knowing that this is something that I outline. Yeah. It definitely takes a lot of the mudslinging and fighting out of it. So
when you say estate planning, mm-hmm. Do I have to have an estate? Like, maybe I'm like most people that have thought when I heard the term estate planning, that means I have to have an estate. That means I had to have some money.
You got to be balling.
Yeah, I got to be balling. So I mean, if I ain't got but $1.15, like at the end of the day, what does that look like for?
Well, for me,
planning, putting it on paper.
For me, my $2, I'm gonna divide it up. You're gonna get 50 cents. You're gonna get 50. You're gonna get $1. It's gonna be laid out. So estate planning essentially is anything that you own that is of value to you, from your car to jewelry, to anything of value, furniture. I mean, if you want to divide out your silver that you've had, right. Anything that is of value to you that you want to make sure that it's directed and gone somewhere, and you want to make sure it don't end up thrown out or at Goodwill, then you need to make sure that that's written out and clear. Okay.
And you mentioned, if I don't have a computer, I can go to the library. You mentioned a lot of good things there. Do I have to have a lawyer or a professional, somebody that this is their background? Do I need to reach out to somebody to do it, or can I do it on my own? And once I'm done, like if I were to write it all out or download the papers, who do I give it to? Okay. Where do I go from there?
So I'm not an expert on estate planning.
You talking like you're an expert, girl. All right, keep going.
I'll tell you what I know. You can definitely, I would encourage you, if you have the funds or to take the time and put the funds aside to make sure that your events are in order. If we can make time to buy nice shoes and church hats and $300 Easter outfits, then you can put that money into paying an attorney to just make sure that your estate is in order. You definitely want to make sure that that is notarized and that copies go to the people who are going to be key players in it, whether it's the executive of your estate planning, if it's healthcare, medical power of attorney, then you want to make sure that you give that person who is going to be acting as your surrogate a copy of that.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely. But make sure that if you change your mind about something, that you update it and you do your best to destroy all those old copies. But any copies that come after or subsequent dates after the original one has been changed will more than likely be held up. But you want to just avoid all of the nastiness.
Yeah. And I remember, I guess recently, having my parents like wanting to have that conversation about, okay, hey, let's, I need you to make sure that you understand what some documents are, and I'm putting some things together. And I know it was an uncomfortable, space for me to have, but certainly a very responsible conversation that we need to have. And that's one of the things that we have to start as a community being more mindful about and being more forthright about in terms of having those conversations, those needed conversations about, in the unlikely event, but here's where you need to go to find this. Here's where this is, XYZ, so that, like you said earlier on, that it not only lessens the burden of trying to manage what that looks like for that person and the family, but it also helps to resolve, in some cases, some of the frustrations that may result around that, right? But what we do know is that we do have some family members that's just going to act up because that's what they do.
Because we can, just because we can. And I think we talked about that before. Some people do stuff just because they can, but I think having that conversation with your parents, as awkward as it is necessary. Right. So when I brought the conversation up to my parents, their response was, we already told you what we want you to do. No, it doesn't work like that, right. And I want to make sure that it's clear that this is what you're saying, doing, so get it in writing. And I think if you know my dad, he's super funny. Like, he has this like quick wit. And when I first brought it up, he was like, trying to put me in the ground? No, not trying to put you in the ground. Just need to know what it is that you want and how you want things taken care of. So definitely responsible necessary conversations. And we need to remove the stigma around death. Yeah. Death is a natural part of living. And maybe I have, a different take on it from having seen it so many times, but it is a part of living. And you get to die once. Plan how you want to do it. And make sure that others give you what we call a good death, or especially if it's a process where you're sick for a while and you don't have to, on your deathbed, be saying, take me down to Lee and Brothers and get me cremated, and trying to make all these decisions. So,
well, I have my own feelings about cremation, and
we're gonna talk about
I'm an advocate. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's funny you talk about that, just having that dialogue and that open conversation. Like, my dad wanted to go to the degree of starting to plan out, the funeral and the, what's going to happen and who's going to speak. And I remember thinking as we're talking about this, like, how you going to know who's saying what? And
listen,
you in the ground, like, at the end of the day, people can say anything. Like,
it's about honoring the wishes. We go so far when people die to honor their memory, and we come back, balloon releases and T-shirts and all of these things. But what about the small things, even as small as who does my eulogy? My grandmother was clear on one thing, my maternal grandmother, before she passed. This is the person that I want to do my eulogy. Now, whatever y'all got to do after that, make it happen. And guess what? Her children made that happen for her. She was clear. Now, what can she do about it afterwards?
And you don't know, why
would you not?
But there's this. So to that point, there's this story that happened in social media. No, listen for real. There's a story about this guy that wanted to be embalmed like in his club outfit, and he wanted his mama to have him at the club.
I'm not laughing, y'all.
I'm dead serious. So this is, y'all look it up. So there's footage of him literally in the club like this with a hat on and his glasses on, and people dancing around him in the club.
We do too much. And I understand.
But that was his wishes, though. No.
So that was his proposed wishes. We didn't see that in writing. Take me to the club and turn up one more time with my body.
That's what his mama said.
His mama said this is how he would have wanted to go out. Well, he's already gone out. So in that end time memorial, we just gonna be popping bottles out. I was like, is that a body? Is that a real body? It's a real body in the club. My daughter told me about it. She was like, you got to see it, Mama. I was like, I cannot watch this. But to each their own. And his family and his friends, they went all in and they celebrated. However, now, if you need somebody to take you to the club, then I'm not the one to be the executive of your estate and your healthcare power of attorney, because I'm just not gonna be up in there with.
Okay, so what if it ain't the club? You know, pastor want to be, he want to be bed up in the pulpit.
Ooh, Lord.
Like this. But
so even beyond the deceased rapper's mother's taste and decision, I think it was interesting some of the points that Faison brought up, which I wanted to kind of delve into a little bit, because he said because of the drama between him and his sisters, he elected to not go to his father's funeral.
Wow.
And perhaps he has feelings around that, because he said, the funeral is the show for other people. But it seems like he was all right with it. So it leads me to believe, or kind of inject my own thoughts on that he was at peace with his dad and felt like he had done right by him up to that point. So he, rather than go ahead and turn this out, I'm just going to pass it. I'm just going to pass up on it. So one of the key points he said was that they needed his dad. And sounded like it was a literal translation of like they needed him to survive, like financially. And that's a hard place to be in. I've seen people literally hang on in death saying, I got to make it to the first of the month because my kids need my check to pay the rent. What can you do to help me live 4 or 5 days longer? And I've had families be upset, like literally want to fight. Like, you can't do something to make them live longer? Like, what are we going to do? Figure it out, bro. Like,
right. Wow. That's crazy.
Their time is their time. So what are your thoughts on that?
The point that he made is, which is the reality, unfortunately, funerals just bring out, that time, that period just brings out the worst in people. So going back to our original point, even the things that we put on paper, even the things that are, decided on, or the things that we do have planned out, it still doesn't remove, let's say, another sibling or another family member or somebody else that may disagree with what's on that paper. It doesn't remove the drama that they may bring to that space.
Sometimes drama comes out because the deceased person didn't set boundaries, limits, make adults be adults. They coddled them. And so they create a sense of entitlement for that person. And that's hard, but it's the truth. We literally spoil our kids, and then they become our spoiled adults, spoiled to death. They become codependent, and the parents just don't want to let them go because that's my baby. So they are, in their adult years and age, dependent upon that parent. And maybe that deceased person was all right with that. And if they are, hey, y'all got it. It's not going to cause me to lose sleep. I'm not going to lose peace or anything because of things that you left unresolved. Y'all can have it.
Unfortunately, when it should be a time of family coming together, loving on one another, and remembering, having great memories, and here's what we can do to continue to glue our families together and push forward. Unfortunately, it's just filled with so much drama that we just isolate and remove ourselves from it. I just think when you just get fed up with having the same drama, it's like, okay, you obviously going to do things your way. You obviously have your mind made up no matter what I say, whether I'm the oldest or youngest. You want to argue. Some people want to argue for the sake of argument. I used to tell this person, you the type of person that will argue with a stop sign. And when you meet them types of personalities, man, like at the end of the day, it's not, to me, I had to a long time ago make an assessment of how much my peace meant to me. And that's even in every situation of life, but namely around when it comes to dealing with matters of death. Like, what does it really mean? Like,
well, I think I agree. You're gonna have people they just gonna they're not gonna agree just because you said it. Right. What entitles you to be the voice of reason? Who are you that you got to always be right?
Because I'm small.
Mr. Holier than now, he want to come over here preaching to people. Want to tell everybody what they should be doing. But so you're gonna always encounter those things. Not always, but a lot of times you encounter, especially the larger the family gets, the more diverse it gets. And they might not say it to you, but rest assured that body in the ground, they on the phone.
Yeah. Let me tell you what this.
Yes. So.
Disgusting too. So in summary, what are the 3 to 5 takeaways that we have that you recommend, or we recommend that people do in doing some estate planning, life planning?
Get your life in order. Get your stuff together, and as much as you spend time painting, remodeling, you need to be looking at those documents and looking at them often, especially when you acquire new things, you sell, get rid of things. You need to be updating it. It should be a living, breathing, moving document that evolves with your life. So that's one takeaway. The other is, aside from estate planning, your healthcare power of attorney. It needs to be clear what you want. And if you're not sure what you want, you can even designate in there that I designate my proxy to make the decision. Yeah. And that can be based on conversations you had with them. So definitely get your house in order in totality, which means having those forms and those legal documents that protect your wishes, that minimize strife among your kids, your loved ones, and those that are left behind. And if you struggle with mental health, things come up. You can get an infection that will throw off all your medication levels. So get you a mental health power of attorney that outlines that as well for you. Take care of it all. It's so important.
Wow. I think the one point I would add to all of that, and I absolutely agree, is to ensure that you have some, where you can, ensure you have some good insurance. There's burial insurance. There's all kind of insurances.
Chicken plate sales.
Hey, do what you got to do, but get you some insurance.
Do it before the fact, not after.
Yeah, but that's imperative, because you want to make sure that the final needs are met and that they're taken care of. And as my uncle would put it, that you have a good, they can bury you in the right spot. You got to make sure
you don't get buried where the people
that don't have insurance get buried. That's a story for another time. But thank y'all for joining in again. Hit that like and that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Make sure you also hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, so you can get notified when we come out with new content. Yeah. But thank y'all.
And before we go, 2 questions we're gonna each answer. Burial or cremation, and 30-second funny funeral story.
Oh boy, burial. For me, cremation. I want to be cremated. I heard you ask me why in the spirit. I want to be cremated because, one, I'm not a proponent of putting a whole lot of money in the ground. That's just me. And at the rate of funeral cost, and I have family members and friends. By no means am I trying to cut in on your business, but I I just have a feeling about, paying $5, $6, $7, $10, $20,000 for a casket and it be in the ground that's going to deteriorate. I know they make some titanium ones that don't deteriorate, but that's just my own personal feeling. 30 seconds. I got so many funeral stories. So for those of you that don't know, I used to pastor, and as a licensed clinician and clergyman, I would also perform funerals. And at funerals is when you see some of the most incredible things. And the funniest story that I would tell right now would be one of something that happened to me personally, not just something I saw. It was a whole bunch of things happening at this particular funeral that was just like mind blowing for me. But I get to the burial site and I'm walking up, getting ready to do the burial site, and as I'm talking with some family members as I'm walking closer toward the casket, I'm not paying attention to where I'm going. Stop laughing. You gonna let me tell my story or what?
Go ahead. You got it.
So I'm not paying attention to where I'm going. And as I'm walking up to the casket, I'm talking, and I'm looking down at my little black book, and I'm walking over toward the casket. And as I get ready to turn around, as the family's coming over, my foot slips, and I'm too close to the casket.
You trying to go with him?
My foot slipped, and I'm halfway down in that hole. When I tell you, I thought Jesus had come back. I think I peed on myself a little bit. Had a black suit on, don't nobody know it. But, oh Jesus, the funeral director, my man Kerry, if you watching this, my man Kerry caught me by the arm. He said, "You all right?" Man, yeah, if you don't get me, I think I may have cussed a little bit too, man, if you don't get me about this hole. So, I fixed my face, and I finished the burial ceremony, wow. And I made it through.
Okay, all right. So for me, burial, nothing expensive. Don't get no cars for no Negroes to ride in. You need one car for my grand if she's still alive, my parents and kids, and you.
You don't want no carriage?
I don't want no carriage, and anybody who can't thumb a ride, Uber to get there, they just won't be there. We're not having 10 family cars. You got a whole processional, and you done spent $7,000 to give Negroes ride. They're just gonna talk about you anyway. I do want a burial though, and quick. Don't let them be out there. Everybody talking at the funeral. 2 people, 2 minutes.
Okay,
that's it.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Yes. So we're going to be concise and to the point, but that's my funny funeral story. My grandmother, God rest her soul, and if my cousins watching, y'all already know. And if you know my family, you know they ready for whatever. If you ain't got no smoke, we don't want no smoke. But if it looked like a flicker of a flame, we just going to set the whole thing on fire. So my grandma's funeral, and there is a clergy member up that's supposed to be giving a short remarks that turned into a long period, which moved to the point of one cousin standing up to check the clergy in the middle of the funeral. Hey, what you not gonna do? And then out of the corner of my eye, I got some fighting girl cousins. Listen, when I tell you, ready. So they already was extra cute at the funeral in their bodycon dresses, so you could transition to whatever was gonna be the after. And out of the corner of my eye, I see somebody kicking off shoes coming up the side. Listen, I ain't never moved so fast in my life. I think I was on the end of the pew. I jumped over to make it to the wall, and she had gotten by, but I caught her by the waist. She's like, "No, I'm about to go give it to." She about to go beat up the clergy lady in the pulpit. I got another cousin back there cussing. Oh, she got us messed up
in the church.
It was about to go down. Funny clergy story. So for my family, if they put you on the program, just do what they ask you to do. Cause
don't go up there with nothing extra.
Don't go up there with nothing extra, because if you go left, they'll go right and left with you. So that's my funny story. But they was gonna beat up the preacher lady right there. She's about to get it.
Okay. So
yeah.
And that's that story actually provides some great segue for our next episode. So make sure, listen again, make
Yes.
sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit the notification button, the bell, and leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of the episode. And what we're gonna start doing is for people that leave comments, and we'll try to figure out a way to get it in, but we'll try to shout you out
Yes.
for everybody that's commenting. All right.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in and keep an eye out for the next segment. Looking
Indeed.
forward to it.
All right. Peace.